Our current population on the planet is over 7.9 billion with a B, 7.9 billion. And yet in the middle of all of this, you have a one-of-a-kind voice among the billions. Now, there are over 7,100 languages spoken on our planet, with the most popular spoken language being English. And I am here to invite us to show up, speak, and present at our very best. Shakespeare alone added about 1,700 words to the English language during his lifetime. And I consider your voice is your branding, and your voice represents both you and your business. And I invite you to think of it as the way you show up and speak as both a responsibility and a joy. And when you master this and take charge of the way you show up and speak and present, that's when the magic happens. And my movement on the planet is to invite us to return to a civil, considerate, and respectful way of interacting with each other. And I say, I want to move us I want to move us away from low-level, immature, aggressive, and sometimes bro-based speaking. So first of all, our first topic, let's talk about your voice and why it matters so much, especially now. Your voice is not some small thing in your throat. It's your personal expression. And it's healthy to speak up. In fact, if I start to whisper, it's very fatiguing on my vocal folds, or they're called vocal cords as well. So what does that say to me? We're designed to speak up, not hold back, not whisper, except when appropriate, of course. I want you to know how much of a difference you can make with an influential, authentic voice and holding your dreams and being able to express them. So let's pause right now. And I want to invite you to think of your voice as multidimensional. For me, the voice has height and width and depth. It has breadth, it has tone, it has your choice of words, it has love, intention. And you might think of some other words when you think of your own voice. And I find a lot of people take it for granted. So I want to remind you, what if you couldn't speak? Oh my gosh, for some of us, that would be so tricky because we like to communicate, we like to talk. So just a moment of thankfulness for your voice, the fact that you can speak, it's an amazing thing. And I want to invite you to think of your voice always coming up and out versus a lot of folks speak in their throat or it's down and back. But you're designed to always be coming the voice up and forward through from the belly all the way out through your mouth. Now, do you know how big your vocal folds are? If you studied anatomy, let me show you on camera. Here we go. See that? Of course, that's a quarter. That's the diameter or size of most of our vocal folds. Now, you probably know they're safe here, protected by the bone, the trachea. They're like this. If we would look down, they're joined in the front, so they open in the back. And that's the diameter. Can you imagine doing so much in the world with something that's physically so very small in your body? Isn't that extraordinary? This body temple that our soul is housed in it's extraordinary. And I want to ask you, you may look fantastic. In fact, most of you do. And I'm so glad you're here. What happens when you open your mouth? Does it match? Is it aligned? Do you have a voice that we want to lean into and that we want to listen to? For example, if I said, "Hi, I'm Dr. Miluna," you'd say, what is that about? What is that high pitch? What just happened there? So it's always an alignment. And if we look a certain way and speak in another way, it is a bit of a disconnect. And so I want to encourage you to think of your whole body and the way you present and show up. It's your instrument. Your entire body, to me, is a way of expressing, and the voice. Now let's go into the next topic for today. Your inner queen is your leadership voice. And for the men, the leader voice. I know we have at least one gentleman here today. And she or he is your inner authority. It's your inner voice. Because your queen voice, your sovereign voice, is the one that knows your worth. It's the voice of experience. So think of your love leadership being spoken from your queen voice or your sovereign voice. So let's connect this to the 4 phases of life. And when I began to understand in my spiritual studies the 4 phases of our life, 4 acts, I say, it occurred to me that vocal archetypes, which is a system I created, match the 4 phases of life. And we have those 4 voices within us at all times. But it's a different recipe. When we're leading our companies, it's that queen voice, that sovereign. If you're a mother, you have a place for a mother voice with the children. We have the little girl voice. Maybe we use that when we're among our girlfriends. And then you have the elder or the grandmama voice. And that has a specific purpose as well. So if we think of the maiden or the young girl or the young lad for our men, she's playing, she's learning, she's finding out who she is. Kids are pretty loud until they're told not to be, which also tells me we're naturally made to express. It's very healthy for us. Then think of the mother phase, whether you physically give birth to a baby or you give birth to a company or an empire or a book or a song or a practice. The mother is the worker. She works and works and works and works until she gets exhausted in most cases. And then we have the queen or the sovereign voice. This leader has learned to run a company. She takes care of herself and she has the wisdom to show for it. So the queen, think of it as a bit more impersonal, not so personally connected to each person, because the sovereign leader is always holding the vision for the good of the entire company, the entire realm, the entire empire that she or he runs. And then we have the elder. So the elder may be winding down a bit in life while still contributing and still being amazing. On that note, I'll take a sip of water here. Pardon me. So I invite you to just think about that for a minute. Take a breath with me. Think about that. It's your inner queen, your inner authority. Some of us have spent a lot of our lives looking outside, but the wisdom that we have is not found outside. It's inside. It's that inner voice. the inner authority. Again, the one who knows your worth, the voice of wisdom, the voice of experience. So the queen would run the board meetings, as you can imagine. It would be a bit of a slower pace, be a little more even, might be a bit deeper, and using language that reflects everyone and leaving no one out. Let's talk about 2 habits that are costing you credibility. The first one is something that I've already heard this morning. It's the word sorry. Now, I want to invite you to take a look at your own behavior. Is that something that you've developed a habit around? Sorry, just throwing out that word casually and excusing of yourself. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, without any real intention or meaning. And in shamanism, which is probably, we think, the oldest spiritual practice on our planet, your words are literally magic. They matter. They are so specific. For me, I can hear the difference in frequency in words. So can you imagine if you're just casually throwing out sorry all day long? There's nothing to be sorry about. You are a divine creature. You are here to make a difference. You are showing up here with me today. You are contributing. So I want to ask us to begin to get very clear about saying that word versus when you literally need to make a heartfelt apology. And we only want to do that in person or by camera at the very least, not by phone, not by text, because we can be misunderstood. But a real apology in the space of vulnerability and heart is very different than the sorries that I hear just falling out of people's mouth. Be very clear in the difference in those 2 things. And some of you might say, I never do that. Yay. And some of you might say, I think I do that sometimes. So now that I've called your attention to it and we're shining the light on it, then you'll begin to replace that habit. So what would you say instead? If you're moving through a crowded airplane or something, remember the words, excuse me or pardon me, please. Americans, we used to love to say please. I don't know if our manners are so solid anymore, but that's mostly a thing for the US folks. Please, thank you. We have so many beautiful, courteous words. That's what I invite us to replace. Sorry needs to be very strategic. And as I mentioned, that would be more likely tied to an actual apology for something that you feel bad about and you want to repair that relationship. And it takes a lot of courage, doesn't it? I know folks who literally will not apologize. And so that's an ego thing. That's a protection thing. But there will be times we need to say, I'm sorry, in a true apology. So that's number 1. So think of it from a deeper level, a higher frequency, and an inclusion from the world, the global marketplaces that we're in. Now, we have a whole lot more, way much more vocabulary than we're actually using. So let's tap into that and what's authentic to us. Now, the second habit is what I call contracting. And the literal meaning of contracting is to reduce in size or volume by or if, as if pressing parts or members together. That's from Merriam-Webster. So you can literally, when I say that, did you feel yourself getting smaller? And that's what can happen when we're challenged, we're in a high stakes situation, or we're with someone who is literally, we feel like we're being attacked, someone who's angry or not in a space of love or dominating. And you can feel yourself getting smaller. And I remember feeling that way a lot in corporate, which is why I chose to remove myself from corporate. Didn't like the culture in some of the companies. So what do you do instead when you can feel that you're becoming smaller? Some of us, our voice gets higher. I literally turn into a little girl. I can feel it happening in my body. And so what we need to do instead is to stop and pause, take a breath, and I invite you to literally make yourself bigger. Get wider if you're on the camera. If you're in person, stand up taller. Take up more space. Men are better at this. Men know how to take up space. Lift your chest and ribs. Get a hold of that voice. Take a pause so that you respond versus react. And then continue. The minute you find that happening physically, you can tell you're going into the little girl or you're going into the people-pleasing mother. Something is happening. So your body gets smaller, your voice might go down in volume. And we need exactly the opposite at that. You need to expand and slow down and take up more space. And let's take a lesson from Mother Earth. Does she rush? No, she doesn't. And right now we've got some wild things happening. I saw at least someone here from Florida and from the East Coast. We've got some hurricane activity. Mother Earth does what she does to keep the balance on the planet. We don't understand it, but she's in her power. So let's take a pause right now. Be here now. Sit up tall with me. Expand your ribs and your chest, which supports your entire vocal mechanism, makes you look more confident, makes you look bigger on stage or camera. Now soften your lower belly so that you can take a deep breath. Now think of your big toes right now. Think of your big toes. And take a breath. And anytime you feel the energy rising, or you start to become a talking head, or you start to speed up too fast, or your voice is going up in pitch, do this. It will take about 30 seconds. You can teach yourself to do it very quickly. It's just a pause. It's a breath. It's a recentering. Now go to your heart space. And you can imagine that you're shining a light from your heart space onto your audience. Could be a bright light that shines to all corners of the room. If you're in a huge auditorium, could be a little laser flashlight if you have maybe one key leader of your company with you. Could be a bit softer conversation, but you're not contracting. You're still in that exquisite power and centered in the inner authority that you are and that you have. And I give you permission to use your queen voice, your sovereign voice. Now, tying into the habits, I know I promised to speak about what I call bro speak, meaning there are words that I believe we need to let go of. And I'm inviting us to evolve our language to elevate and raise the frequency on the planet. This is part of creating a world that works for everyone. And you're the LeadHERs and the leaders and the thought leaders and the executives and the founders that are here right now hearing me. You're the ones we've been waiting for. And so what is the word you hear most frequently? Guys. Guys. Folks, I am so over this word. I am so over the word guys. I hear it all the time. But let's look at the etymology of the word. It is a slang word. We believe it came from the British. And in the 18th century, the word guy became a pejorative, meaning a word expressing, easy for me to say, contempt. And it was used against men wearing shabby clothes. So I'll put on my best British accent for you. Oh, would you look at that guy? And imagine a poorly dressed man. So it's a slang. It's a bit of an insult. It could be offensive, and it's come to mean something different. But I want to look at the history and what I call the herstory of the word. Most language seems to be male-centric, at least in our language. And so we want to move beyond that. So instead of the word guys, I invite you to say, hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. Good day. People, folks. Hello, leadership global community. Hello, Team Fantastic. Hello, community. Hello, insert your company name. You can think of so many ways to greet people, introduce people. That is not the word, four-letter word, guys. So jot down what word did you like? What word do you use? Is there a better word? Is there something that would express uniquely your vision for your company, your business, your movement? And jot that down. When I do surveys among my clients, most of them like folks. Now, folks has just a bit of Southern charm to me. It's very welcoming. So I invite you to speak these words aloud. You can record yourself. You can make an audio recording. See how you sound. What does it feel like when you hear yourself saying these words, these welcoming words? Do they feel welcoming? Do they feel inclusive? Is the word big enough to include everyone in your realm, your business, the people that you want to work with, your customers or clients? Needs to be a big word. And I don't mean from a lot of letters. I mean deep depth, and I mean intention, and I mean meaning. Is that a pun? Meaning? And I mean the frequency. How high does that word vibrate? For example, nice and kind are very different. Nice could be a people pleaser. I prefer kind. I think kind is from our heart. I think it's more authentic, but you'll decide your truth for yourself. Very different words. Mentor is a different word than coach. Consultant has a different meaning, and you'll want to pull apart these words and look them up in the dictionary and play with them and write them down. And what's the difference and what is it for you? Both in your voice, your leadership, and the way you describe your business. Now, the English language, and a lot of languages are alive and they're breathing, and we will create new words. And so again, I want to invite us to evolve the way we speak, to create a world that works for everyone on the planet, where no one's left out by our language. Now let's move into the last topic today. 2 ways to speak more like a leader and leader. By the way, water, room temperature, filtered, is the best thing to do for your throat. You want to drink a lot of water, especially if you're speaking. If you're on camera, it takes more energy actually to be here on the Hollywood squares than in a room or in a big space, believe it or not. We have to work harder. We have less visual cues, less cues. We don't know if people are with us. It's a little trickier to make that heart connection. So water's your best friend. Keep that beautiful throat hydrated. Here are 2 ways to speak more like the leader that you are. Number 1, let's remove what I call the static interference, the noise, the distraction. For example, some folks clear their throat. I heard a speaker a couple of weeks ago. She kept clearing her throat. I do not know why. It is a habit that we may or may not be aware of. If there's a physical reason for it, we need to have a doctor examine us. Usually it's anxiety because we're speaking in public, or a lack of self-awareness of what we're actually doing. It's very hard on your vocal folds. Think of it this way. I'm going to make a pretty violent connection here for you. Still, you'll never forget what I said. It's like smacking your vocal folds. So instead of closing love beautifully and gently like this, it's like smack, smack when we clear our throat. Now, would you ever want to do that to your incredible little vocal folds? No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. No violence towards yourself, please. Other forms of interference, all those fillers that you hear people say, like, so, right, you know, or repeating words. Yeah, right. No. One will do. And what do you do instead? You'll notice, what do? I simply pause. And so think of it as music without a rest, which is when the music comes to a stop. Literally, we can't hear you with all the interference, filler words, replacing definite words, purposeful words, words with a meaning, words that are certain, words that are confident. We can't hear you. Your message is being lost. And if you speak too fast with all of that, our hearing literally is not that fast. Now, when I speak to my New York friends, we do speak a little faster. The pace is faster, but you want to be aware of how fast you're speaking. If someone in the room, think of it this way, what if someone has a hearing challenge? Many people speak 2 or 3 languages. They may also be reading your lips so that they have full comprehension. You need to speak slower. Truly confident leaders speak a little slower. Now, I know you've got a lot of energy and there's so much to say, but you don't want to rush through it. You want to be very intentional and conscious and purposeful. We got to hear you. That's how much your message means. That's how much it means to get the funding for your company. That pitch has to be spot on. Maybe you're a minister in the pulpit. Do you want some people going deeper into religion or spirituality? Sure you do. Do you need to get elected for office or get elected to that board position? It's got to count. So that's static interference. And I also wanted to mention, I'm going to read from chapter 4 of my book, just a brief sentence here. Paragraph, I mean. This is chapter 4, Beautiful and Inclusive Language. And here are words and phrases in English that literally embody violence or domination or their male-centric, they're aggressive. And hear me when I say this, many of them are literally gang lingo or prison slang. And this is why I'm so concerned about our words. They have a history of low frequency. They have a history of meaning something that maybe they don't mean now, or that we're not aware of where that word originated. So it's a low-level word. It has what I call a suitcase attached. It's got dirty laundry attached. It has baggage attached. So here's a few words, and just see how your body feels when I say these phrases or words. World domination. Do we need to dominate the world? It's not working very well. Warriors. Now, I only like that word in the context of spiritual warrior. Strangle, knife, rape, got your back. That's from prison. More bang for your buck. I'm not even going to explain what that means on so many levels. Your account has been terminated. We've got to fight COVID. We've got to kill cancer. Shred your abs. Ooh, be on the cutting edge. Scramble to succeed. He beat me to it. We're facing a deadline. We crunch numbers. We use bullet points. You'll notice I replaced my points with hearts. Did you notice? Of course you did. We receive our walking papers, military orders. Now that's okay if you are military. I think you know the difference. She's a ball and chain. Ooh, we're told to get married and settle down. I hope not. An alarm clock wakes us up. A door buzzes. We've got a bad back and a bum knee. Pregnant women are now said to have a bump. Oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't ever call it a bump. And then someone says we've got to have tough love. Why? How about just pure, unconditional, all-powerful love? I've studied a lot with Marianne Williamson, and if you know her work, and I bet some of you do, she says there are two things in the world, love or a call for love. You're either in love or you're not. And so, of course, we want to be able to receive more love in all forms. The way we speak, the way we receive, money, friendship, health, all of this is love being received. And the second part, so let's go back to 2 ways to speak more like a leader. So removing that bro speak and removing any distraction or static interference. Number 2 is to practice global and cultural sensitivity. I believe the world is calling out for leaders who practice what I call the six C's. I get tongue-tied on that. 6 C's of language arts. Clear, that's clarity. Conscious or consciousness. Courteous or polite. Courageous. We need some fierce, courageous people telling the truth. Compassionate, from your heart, from love leadership. And inclusive. I know I'm cheating with that one. Capital C on inclusive. Why? Because today's companies are global. We're from all over the planet. And we have people who were born in both informal countries, such as the United States. And so there's a lot of talk about, oh, we want to have diverse and inclusive companies. Yes, we do. But are we literally speaking that into existence by using truly diverse and inclusive language? So inclusion for me means leave, period, no, period, one, period, out. No one. So the question you want to ask is, as a leader, and you say something, watch how that person responded. How do you think that landed for the other person? Did they pull back and react? Oops, something triggered them. And so, of course, because I ask us to take complete responsibility, then we want to ask, what just happened? Tell me what you heard me say. This is the level of sensitivity and seeing the bigger picture. And when we invite folks by asking things like this, tell me more. Would you tell me in your words what you just heard me say? Then you uncover, oh, what I thought I said and what they heard, whoo, vastly different. So I will say something like, I wasn't clear. Let me say it in a different way. And then I say it in a different way. And then I see, how was that received? And you can do this all the time. You go out in the world, Earth School is amazing. I observe people 100% of the time as a coach, as an actor, in love with the voice and language. How did that person act? Did they respond? Or did they react? Were they angry? Did they become defensive? Were they triggered? Or are we still in a space of responsible, considerate language? And I like to say, we can always disagree without being disagreeable. And so you might say something like, humor's a great disarmer. You might say something like, I don't think we're ever going to agree on that. I so appreciate you telling me. I want you to know I respect your opinion. And I just know that our differences is what makes a better relationship for us. Because you don't want yes people around you. You want people that will provoke you, love, challenge you, not tough love, kind love, beautiful love, maybe loud love, maybe soft love, to be your best and grow into your beautiful presence, showing up like a rock star, like that queen or sovereign.